Okay, camera's on.
We were asking him to play baseball, and he doesn't want to play baseball for some reason. And it's why not? What do you want to do? Sit in your room and play your video games? Because that's not, I'm not real happy about that.
What if it's a virtual video game that he's moving?
No.
Yes.
Just the thumbs, right?
So, well, it's, you know, his is on his computer. It really drives me crazy.
Okay, call the meeting, Fire and Police Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Bill James.
Here.
Fred Mogle.
Here.
Ron Stanko.
Here.
Fred Lovering.
Here.
Keith Ster.
Here. Okay, are there any public comments?
Yes, I want to say a few words. I'm sorry.
Okay, Mr. Jadic?
How are you? I have here a video. I didn't have enough time to send it. I've come before you, and like I said, we come before because there are issues that affect us deeply. I came some time ago raising awareness, the fact that the turn at the top of the hill at on Cardinal Road on the wall side, I hope you know what I mean, presents some difficulties, and I've asked for at least some form of warning, hidden driveway, whatever you choose, something, because what happens when in certain conditions vehicles coming up the hill are hit with the sun as they make the turn. The sun goes in their eyes, and for a few fractions or a few seconds they don't see anything, and neighbors are aware of this. They go slow, other people may not. Some examples that can be used are, and I used it last time, landscape contractors. They come in full throttle up the hill because they have all that weight behind them, and once they're hit with the sun, hitting the brakes is really difficult. All that trailer is going to push. So that's one issue. Another issue could be motorcyclists. They're also in full throttle, and they're not people who can maneuver very well or have stability. Accidents can happen. So this was a situation. I have here and you can see, I don't know how much you can see, I was backing up, and this was a neighbor. She didn't even flinch. She didn't see. I can send you the video, it keeps unrolling. And I was lucky, I saw her, and I stopped because I saw her through the backup camera because it was extended up. That was a situation that was avoided, but she didn't even pull, she didn't do anything, she was not seeing. And like I said, one day it can be a kid, it can be a dog. I don't think we're not asking for major transformation or traffic change, just a warning that, hey, buddy, stay on the lookout here. I don't think it's too much of an expense to put a warning. I would say that it would be wise to put a 15-mile an hour speed limit, because if somebody really takes it seriously and takes that turn at 25, I ain't gonna look good. So again, please look into this. Like I said, I don't think we're asking too much. Nobody is there, it doesn't bother anybody, there are no neighbors, so if we put a sign, I mean, last time the chief said, oh, we don't want to put so many signs up. I don't think that is a reasonable justification. Nobody cares back there. So I think it's not much to ask. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Not seeing any, I will move on. I believe Chief Hackman is at a carbon monoxide call, so let's move on and then we'll come back to fire. Do I need to? Okay. Westonburg's ambulance. Carrie, hi.
Hi. Good afternoon. Okay, so for the month of January, we had 286 dispatches of line missing. Of those, we transported 199. We had 37 cancellations, 1 standby, 29 refused, and 20 assists. We had 100 ALS, 133 BLS. 36 of those were from the Highlands, 22 from Country Meadows. Dispatch to responding time was 1 minute and 5 seconds, and our average on scene time was 14 minutes and 8 seconds. Busiest hour was 12 p.m. to 24.
You just said you're not coming.
We took 173 to Reading Hospital and 12 to St. Louis, and we did not have any Narcan administrations for January. That's it.
Very good. Anybody have any questions for Carrie? Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, now we'll go back to fire department. Hi, Chief.
Good afternoon, I apologize for being late. People are doing things they're not supposed to be doing. For February to date, which this is wrong because we had a couple calls since I submitted this, 147 responses consisting of 23 fires, 23 motor vehicle accidents, 34 QRS medical, 19 hazardous conditions, 46 alarm activations, and 1 smoke detector install. Total responses inside the borough 75, in Spring Township 36, outside of the borough 36. It's high this month because Western Berks Lattery team was out of service for almost a month. It just went back into service. Overlapping calls for February to date 65. There was no fire damage or safety property. Average turnout per incident 4.9 personnel. We had 23 volunteer responses and to date 269 incidents. For the January expanded report, system-wide we had 250 incidents. Out of those, YMSN responded to 122. We had no fire damage for the month of January. We gave aid 34 times and we received aid 29 times. That was system-wide. QRS responses, there were 47 in YMSN Borough. Out of those 47, they had patient contact with 31. No Narcan administration. Our busiest day of the week was Sunday with 43 incidents. Our busiest hour of the day was 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. with 20 incidents. For January, there were 76 overlapping calls, and they consisted of 41 with Spring and YMSing at the same time, 14 with YMSing alone, and 21 with Spring alone. Our dispatch to en route time was 1 minute 51 seconds. Dispatch to on scene 6 minutes 51 seconds, and our average on scene time was 22 minutes and 27 seconds. We gave aid to Western Berks Fire Department 16 times, Greenfields Byrne Township 3, West Reading 1, Muhlenberg Township 4, Comeru Township 7, the City of Reading 2, and then this Lebanon County, that was actually just a fire marshal's assist. Troy got called to assist the Pennsylvania State Police Fire Marshal at an incident. That's not all I have for incidents. If anybody has any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
When you break down the type of incidents, you don't have a category for people doing things they're not supposed to be doing?
No, unfortunately not.
That falls under being stupid without a license.
If there's no questions on that, I'll just give you a brief update on our hiring process. We had the written test on February 18th. We had a total of 12 applicants. Moving forward to that, prior to the written test, one of them dropped out because they got employment someplace else. The day of the written test, one person did not show up, so that put us down to 10. And out of those 10, 8 passed the written test, 2 have failed. So we have 8 moving on to the physical agility, which will start March 18th.
And the goal to hire is how many?
3.
8?
Not all at one time.
Well, hopefully we can do it all at one time. I mean, I guess it all depends on a lot of things, the safer grants, but I know it's gonna be a financial burden, but it's gonna be a nightmare logistically with scheduling and with putting somebody on a single shift and one shift only having 4 and the other 2 shifts having 3. So that's all gonna have to be weighed out, obviously, by council, what the final decision is gonna be made, and or if we receive the safer grant.
If we were to get the grant, and we would hire 3, this is just hypothetical, don't you think we would also need somebody in a strictly an administrative position?
Not necessarily yet. That's gonna give us what we need, to solve our on-scene, having an incident commander and still people doing stuff or whatever. I think that's gonna be later for when we actually sit down and start talking the merger, is to actually lay that out as to what kind of a hierarchy we're gonna need. And then that gives everybody the ample opportunity to fit into those positions.
As of right now, the 3 are contingent on the safer grant.
I don't know about that. We're applying for the safer grant, but
If you would hire all 3 at once, yes, but,
I think 2 of them
We
are
never
the
said
safer.
we were gonna hire 3 without getting the safer.
correct, but you're gonna hire at least 1.
Yeah. We're budgeted for 1.
no, not in 2023, we don't have budgeted for anything because the process won't be completed till close to the end of the year. So anything would be projected for 2024's
Right,
budget.
some of that was still contingent on a successful contract negotiation.
Okay,
So, as of right now, there's, well, the safer grant, I mean, yeah, so this is still a lot contingent on this completion of the contract. So we didn't authorize hiring anybody yet.
correct.
Just want to be ready in case we do.
Yeah, so this is creating
List.
the list.
Well, and the other piece to that was, we didn't have a certified list, so God forbid somebody
Correct.
get
Right.
injured or go out, we
I'm not
could-
saying we won't.
Right.
Don't get me
No,
wrong, I
no.
didn't say we're not.
Yeah, I
but
knew we weren't this
Let's
year.
just
I
not get ahead of ourselves.
was under the 2024 we're gonna start.
Yeah, my question, just to follow up on the, administrative person, was the fact that, you're a hell of a line officer, in a command position, and, your plate's full, and at times, unfortunately, it shows,
Right,
and, we gotta get you some help,
right,
that's simple.
right. We're working on that. Some of the help's gonna be, we're in the process at spring hiring another full-time inspector. So that's gonna take some weight off of me as well too, to assisting with Troy and stuff like that, so, we're slowly working on that.
Michelle, we're still waiting for the state to get back to us about the other discussions, right?
Correct, I got an email from, DCD's office while I was on vacation a week and a half ago that they apparently were still waiting for Spring to submit the letter of intent, which was submitted last week.
And that had been submitted prior to, because I had gotten a copy of that when they mailed it to, or emailed it to whoever it was supposed to be emailed to, but apparently that wasn't the right person it was supposed to be emailed to,
So
so.
did that back when,
We did ours in
Yeah.
December and Spring
Yeah.
did as
And,
well.
yeah, I think, it might have been it was the last meeting in December or whatever, so that day after our meeting or whatever, it was sent because I helped the secretary complete it.
And they said, what, it was gonna be like 6 months because of the overwhelming response they got?
That was the short estimate, but yes.
that's why we wouldn't get the clock. Oh,
Exactly, yeah, I agree. Maybe we just put a bug in their ear, just say, hey, where do we stand on the list, when are things gonna get
Well,
going?
they literally only just they're confirming they only got Springs last Tuesday, I
Yes.
think it was. So,
Okay.
May I ask a question? In the absence of Tower 79, are we in good shape equipment-wise?
Yeah, we are. What you see is the fact of us having, our plan was to have the 2 aerial devices, was that when ours goes down, that we have a spare, a reserve piece ultimately. And what happens is ladder trucks, we saw 18s was down, Western Berks Fire Departments was down for well over a month or whatever, so then that kind of taxes other agencies or whatever. And our downfall is the fact that if our aerial's out of service in some of the areas in, I know it as a 39-1, 39-2 district, so like the main area, the borough here, the Enid Reading area and stuff like that, and even 39-3, the Hills area, we're gonna be getting a city aerial device coming in to assist us or whatever, so that's a guarantee we're gonna get a ladder truck or whatever. Any place else, we don't have any guarantees of getting anything, other than Western Berks Fire Department, Monday through Friday from 6 in the morning till 6 at night when they have staffing on. Other than that, you know, and that's not a shot at anybody, but that's just the volunteer system, there's no guarantees that anything's gonna get out. So currently, yes, we are, in good shape for apparatus. That's something that's going to have to be broached here at some point shortly to look at some sort of a replacement, because right now, I'm working on that up at spring as well too. And the manufacturers are estimating 2 years from the point where you order it until it's constructed and delivered. But I gotta find a lot of stuff out, because that's a lot of time to go, if you're putting the money up front, if that's how it even works anymore, if you pay it up front, you get the prepaid discounts versus waiting. But that's a lot of time to have money tied up for 2 years without having any kind of a you know, so I'm in the fact-finding mission right now, because our next replacement up there would be 2026, for a big apparatus.
Especially with the interest rates right now, so it would have to be a hefty discount.
Correct, or just hold the money until it's, yeah, right. Statistically, I think when we ordered the ladder truck, did the ladder truck, it was only like $34,000 of a prepaid discount or whatever, so that's in a 2-year period, that's on roughly, probably by that point, by the time we're ready to do anything, you're gonna be at like $1.9 million for an aero device. That's a lot of interest.
We've never considered demos.
That's a
This
possibility, no,
But
that's
it is a
absolutely a
possibility, something
possibility.
maybe look into.
Is, you know, if it can fit the equipment and stuff that we
Right.
need to get on.
Okay, anything else for the chief? Okay, one thing I had asked be put on the agenda, Phyllis had received the invoice for county 911 systems totaling $108,490.13.
Actually, it's 133,000.
Oh, 133, okay. Well, of that, $24,911.56 is for fire dispatch. Now, when I went through the state's relief regulations last year of what this money can be used for, which is specifically for safety equipment, turnout gear and stuff like that, or certain equipment on a new aerial device or apparatus. But 911 emergency dispatch was there. And that's been on there for several years. We've never taken advantage of it. I wanted to make sure I was reading this correctly, and I called the fire commissioner's office, and they confirmed with me last week that that is a viable, you know, expense. So I asked Phyllis to have the county submit a new invoice, one for the borough for police and EMS, and another directly to the fire department for their portion of it. And I've requested that the chief submit this for payment at the next Relief Association meeting in April, which I assume I'm gonna get a lot of pushback.
Yeah, it wasn't received well, that was sent today already. And ultimately, I mean, I hear what Gary's saying, the state fire commissioner has nothing to do with it, so. However, he did say that the auditor general is the one that actually makes that determination if it's viable with the Relief Association, but.
It's on the list.
At the end of the day, he did say today that if they get confirmation from the auditors general, they will submit it for payment, so.
I will send you
I'll
the,
believe that. Oh, no, I believe you.
the snapshot
but-
that they gave me of the thing. I mean, it's there.
This is a very hostile situation
It
right
is.
now, and it's something that's really, I mean, I don't know what else to do about that. I have my visions of why it is that way, but at the end of the day, if they disband, and some of the people sitting at this table or at that meeting, if they disband, you know, ultimately, that's going to increase our budget through the borough, potentially $25,000 a year for equipment. They service the air packs and maintain the air packs, the air compressor and everything at the station, so I think this is a haphazard thing, especially when we're talking about mergers, but I'm kind of an outsider there, not well received, and I don't know how to stop that, other than some of the people sitting at this table also go to these meetings to go there and vote no. And try and figure out who we can put in for officers, but, you know, they have no recollection of disbanding the fire company, but yet it's the same officers from the Relief Association, and the fire company serves absolutely no purpose. You know, where the Relief Association actually serves a purpose. The president in my mind, has a vendetta against career staff, past practices of what happened there, and insists that the money has to be spent for volunteers. Well, we've never gotten gigged. We get audited every 2 years. The stuff that we're purchasing is all within the scope of what can be purchased for safety equipment for the apparatus and stuff like that. We haven't done anything or made any purchases down there, or requested any purchases that would have got them in trouble through the auditors general.
The president of the Relief Association, just to give you a little background quick on this, and then we'll move on. Been with the fire company ever since he was a junior firefighter. Gary Rhodes, very dedicated, knowledgeable person. Once we hired, wrote a, an IAFF union down there, he was told he can no longer drive a fire apparatus. And he's driven them, like me, since we were 21 years old. And now all of a sudden we can't drive or operate anything? It's kind of a kick. And especially when it's borough-owned equipment. But, you know, they said they will grievance that. So, but this is why, you know, this is all taking place. And yes, Gary says, well, you know, the whole purpose of this is to give money to the volunteers, so we're taking money away from volunteers and giving it to paid staff. And so what's the difference? Still, we're entitled to this money. We have over $550,000 in relief money. And the state right now says the only way we can use this money is towards pension, firefighters' pension funds, that money could come over to the borough. If we leave it where it is, money either gets returned to the state, or we can give it to Spring Township or to West Reading.
Well, that's only if they disband the Relief Association.
Yeah, Tom knows, I've been on my soapbox down there. Depending how many people show up at a meeting, I could have the votes needed to keep it going. It just depends on the night. So, the next meeting is in April.
April 3rd.
And, you know, stay tuned. You know, that's all I can say at this point on it. It's, you know, I was going to say something to the president and also the secretary of relief about this. And then I figured, no, let's just let them get the invoice and then we'll discuss it at the meeting. So.
Bill, where do they get their, where does the Relief Association funds come from?
This comes from the state foreign fire insurance, okay? So your company hires somebody from Connecticut as your carrier, your insurance company, okay? They have to pay a percentage to insure you in Pennsylvania, and that money goes to the state. And then the state has very strict guidelines, and you're audited, but every other year?
Yeah, every 2 years.
Yeah. And they come in and they look over everything that you spent that money on. But yeah, and some places, I mean, I don't know why we don't continue to buy more. You know, but you take places, King of Prussia, okay, they have over $5 million in relief money. I mean, it's bizarre. But I mean, it's a good program. And I think we just have some guys, as was said, with personal vendettas against the paid staff, and they're tired of being involved with it anymore. I've said if I need to become an officer of the Relief Association, I will. That'll take care of one position. Now we got another position.
Thank you very much.
You know, so that's the long and short of it, but I just wanted to bring everybody up to date on this. That's where we stand. Any questions? Okay, I'll keep you posted as we hear stuff. Anything else for comment? Thanks, Colin.
You're welcome.
Police Department, John.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to go a little bit out of order, just go through the quicker items first. I received a permit application for Safe Berks for their Walk No More event scheduled for June 17th of 23. It's an event that they occur every year. They set up a tent right there at the intersection at Penn and Park on the parking lot, and then they kind of walk up Penn Avenue into West Reading. All they really ask from us is that we help them just cross the street there, parking Penn and Eaton Penn. The tent usually gets inspected every year, so not a month occurring.
If you're doing a motion for that, I would ask that I think in the past, we haven't charged them the tent fee, the permit fee or whatever, that gets waived.
Right.
So I would be asking that. This
Somebody wish to make
application
that
move
motion?
to council.
Along with, not charging the tent,
Waiving the tent.
waiving the tent fee. Motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. I assume all the paperwork's in
Yeah.
order, okay.
And then last fire and police meeting, I discussed about handicap sign being removed on, not Hamilton Place, Holland Square. And there was a discussion about the 1500 block of Dolphin Avenue. Ms. Barnett was able to speak with the executor of that location, and long and short, that sign can come down as well. So I would be asking that that be moved on to council as well, that sign can be brought down.
Second.
Motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Take her down.
And then lastly, with the discussions of Lawndale Road and us meeting tonight, I prepared a report regarding that whole area. Since I'm planning on, since I'm expecting more of the residents to be here, to maybe read this more in depth then, but to give the synopsis of what I have here, in doing the checks that we have done over the years in that area for speeds, the 85th percentiles have all been within the 25 mile per hour speed limit. It's under the 25 mile per hour. We've had that sign that we have, or those traffic signs that we have, we've had it posted there all month. I had Sergeant Purcell pull the report for me. So far for this entire month, the 85th percentile is 24.92. So again, it's under the 25 miles per hour. So the overwhelming majority with the device that we have at the location it can check it, it's showing that vehicles are traveling at the proper speeds. I went back and I then did a check of crashes along Lawndale for the last 10 years. 10 years in 1 month. And I found that we've had a total of 8 non-reportable crashes, 8 reportable crashes, and 1 hit and run. That hit and run is this incident that started it with the dog. We labeled it that because that operator left the scene. We didn't label it as a pedestrian accident. So in total, we've had 17 crashes over 10 years in that area. When you look at with PennDOT's requirements and suggesting the additions of stop signs, they're looking at 5 crashes in an area in a year. So for 10 years, we'd have to be looking at over 50 crashes. We're not anywhere close to that. In looking at those crashes that we've had, the overwhelming majority were people either not stopping for one of the signs at one of the feeder roads or stopping but leaving too soon. So then I started doing some research on what are some of the methods in which communities can combat speed issues. So, and you see it in the letter that they, in their petition, it talks about the speed humps. That is one of them that I have listed in my report here. It basically, they're not speed bumps, which, are kind of short and maybe 6 to 8 inches in height. These are about 12 feet in length. They're about 3 or 4 inches high, You can get them so that they are movable. I have not looked into any kind of prices and things like that. But they basically cause vehicles to slow down as they have to go up over. There are some other things that we can do that I've found that are recommended with cleaning the speed limits on the roadways itself, some flashing type signs, things like that. But what I think the borough would need to look at is that in the data that we've collected the few times that we've had stuff there, we're not seeing a problem. And I'm not here to say that people don't speed. People speed on every road. There's those outliers. But I think that there may be a perception that they see one person walking, the vehicle may look like it's going faster than it actually is. But what we found with our sign, we're just not seeing every time that it's been there. It hasn't been there a whole lot over the years, and I have that listed here. We have some issues with those signs as to where we can place them. It needs a particular type of pole, and there's only one in that area where it's at now where it really is effective. So if we wanted to do something, my first recommendation is we actually have a traffic study done there and see what kind of traffic we're getting in both directions with speeds and things like that, and get a real accurate count. Because those batteries die on them, and there may be some time frames where it's not collecting the data. But Sergeant Purcell is the one that runs all that, and if he's off for a long weekend and it dies on a Saturday, it might not be till Monday, so we're missing 2 days. So, I mean, that would be my first recommendation of what we do, is get a traffic study out there. I'm not really, I don't believe we're gonna find that is a problem with what they would find, what's equipment they use. So then it becomes a cost analysis as to what do we wanna implement in this area, or any area of really the borough. But if you went for these traffic humps, they might be able to be moved to other areas that there is an issue. But is there something that we wanna spend the money on right here? Because I'm not seeing it in crashes, and I'm not seeing it in speeds.
I think the word you used was the perception.
And
I think if we take a position of where we're going to present a lot of facts to tell them they're wrong, I think it's going to create an adversarial.
No, I agree, and I believe
And I
that,
think we have 400 residents who think it's worthwhile spending some money to fix, whether it's a fact, but it's a perception. And if it slows down 2 speeders, if it slows down 3 speeders, that they don't hit their dog, even though their dog got off the leash, I think we have to look at this thing on a different, I think we have to come at it as what can we do, as opposed to why should we do it? So what
and that's
can
why I
we-
have in here items that.
And I think that's the way we need to approach this thing.
My problem is the slippery slope. Here he sees no evidence, no demonstrable evidence of any problem. So somebody else will see it in some other name.
And if you
They
get
won't be
400,
able to-
if you get 4% of our population that says it's a problem, it's a problem.
I just.
Because that's what we're here for. We're here,
But there's no basis for it, there's no criteria.
it is, because 4% of our population thinks it is.
That's
Well,
my
the-
problem.
The only thing you can do is not do a traffic study, because the traffic study is gonna make you look smarter than you already are, and that will cost money, and then we'll be fighting with the traffic study people and you. So
Yeah,
we need to find the cheapest
I wouldn't
way.
do a traffic study, I would look for what are some solutions
Well, you have
that
to
we
do
can
a
do
traffic
there.
study,
Well-
don't you under PennDOT regs?
No, no,
Well, so if we're gonna do some speed, changing the speed limit, things like that, or maybe wanting to add some stop signs. But what I think that we can probably try to do is, I've already talked to Jim about, so as municipal police, we cannot use radar to enforce speed. Those signs, I have that listed in here, they're using radar, so we can't use any of the information on there to even write a citation. We're not authorized in Pennsylvania to use it. So what we use is our VASCAR equipment. So it's, basically a fancy stopwatch that calculates the speed with distance divided by the time it takes to go between 2 points. Now, we put some lines on there, so we don't have any in that area. There's not a lot of great areas for us to sit, but putting those lines up and then an officer sitting, I've had officers sitting there just right on Lawndale, trying to make a presence, and they can't really do anything about speed, but it slows people down, seeing the cars.
The exquisite parking over there.
But I think if we can get some lines painted over there, and then perhaps maybe doing the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit painted on the road type of thing. I mean, those are things that I think that could be done that, you know, the cost of paint and getting
Yeah,
it
those are all
painted
things that
on here.
we can do that don't cost a lot, but
Incremental,
exactly.
and see if it
That's-
changes.
Has that contract gone out for this year? Anything?
Jim does that now.
Yeah.
You wanna check with him?
I can.
Another problem they have is they perceive people using Lawndale as a detour off of State Hill.
That
I
is
think
definitely.
That's not a perception, that's a
Well, I
reality.
understand that, but I think that's also something we need to explicitly acknowledge that it's happening, perhaps.
All the more reason to put in more,
Roundabouts?
yeah,
Well, and that's,
more deterrents and warnings.
Well,
Well,
once
and
the
it-
construction starts, I don't know.
But yeah, once they start working on State Hill Road, that's gonna be incredible.
Well, that's exactly right. When you get, if we do anything to spend money here, we better do it talking about PennDOT budgets. Because if you think you have a problem now, talk about dogs putting people at each other's throats because they come down Woodland, make a left turn on Lawndale, they think they're gonna skate onto State Hill Road somewhere where there's an opening. There aren't gonna be any openings. Once the roundabout shows up, the traffic will slow down. You won't be able to cut in line. There's 2 traffic lights there, one up by the mall and one down by the other mall, and that's it. So if we haven't talked to PennDOT about what we think we can't talk to them about, we better start talking about Lawndale and Wyomissing Hills, because that's gonna be a disaster. There's three dead-end streets there that you can't put stop signs on. How can you put a stop sign, there's nobody coming out of each end? Makes no sense. So when you try to do anything there, you have to think about what's gonna happen in 6 or 8 months. And if we haven't talked to them about that, they're gonna say, hey, I live in Harrisburg, you guys have to live with it.
Well, those roundabouts they're surveying going on now, and they're gonna, according to Alan Piper, they're gonna come back to us with a plan. And that would be the opportunity to say now.
Yeah, right now, what we have is a
How will this
conceptual
affect one?
plan.
I have another question. What is the current setup as far as parking on
There, the one side of the street is no parking, there's parking on one side of the street, I can't remember which one it is, I think it's the,
You can park at
East,
well, when you say east, which way, because I consider
closest
going
to
out,
State Hill.
northbound, I still consider, because anything north of Penn is going that way, so it would be the right-hand side, I believe, is where you can park going out.
Now that you say that, are you sure it doesn't switch? Cause I feel like I've seen cars parked on the side closest to State Hill Road, down in like the 10 and, like the 0 to 100 block, and then the 100 block. And then on the north side, like past Valley Vista, I feel like I've seen
Well, once
cars
it
on the
it
opposite.
becomes Warwick,
Yeah,
and once it becomes past Warwick, then it's parking on both sides.
okay.
it? What I'm driving at is making as much parking as we can, which causes cars to
It's
pause.
taking,
It's gonna be
and
very,
leave.
it's gonna be very tight out there,
But
fire
that
trucks through there,
affects-
especially if it's,
If you put everybody parking, you're just asking for another problem. Because people will end up parking on both sides, and then you won't get anybody. There will be one car.
Suggestions.
I'm sorry?
That was one of your suggestions of the possibility, slow traffic down. Right?
Well, what I said is what some of the things that I have found is that these, to slow traffic down is these humps that they have. And I know that they mentioned that, and you'll see in that petition letter, that's what those basically are. I don't know that, from what I have seen and the information, that
never act.
we wanna spend that money in that area for that. I'm thinking more of, let's try putting some lines down for my guys to be able to run some speed, painting on the roadways, the speed limit, that type of thing, so that it shows that, A, we're trying to do something, but we're not. I don't think that in a cost benefit analysis here, that this is the area that we wanna spend a lot of money and putting a lot of work into the structure of the roadway.
But if you
Is it
spend
also
a few bucks here,
Is it worth painting stop sign again?
I think we could do, so one of the things that we have to, and it's in what the technical that Senator Schwank had presented to us, that it talks about when you get too many signs, you just don't see them anymore, and it's just,
Yeah.
you disregard everything. So if we put a sign everywhere, I mean, people just aren't gonna see it and they're gonna disregard it anyway. So I think we have to watch what we do, and that's why I think maybe on the roadway, we see it, nice big letters, speed limit 25, going in both directions, put it in a couple places.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask.
You might be able to
Thank you.
put those, some stop signs have those lights that flash, something like that.
PennDOT permit.
Is that a PennDOT
That's
permit?
considered a signal.
but where do you put
Do
those?
we make- do we make sure-
There's no streets there. There's-
Well, there's stop signs that are currently there, is what I'm saying, we don't
Are
have,
they
but,
visible? I mean, sometimes
They're visible.
trees,
yes,
Yeah.
they're visible, it's just,
obscure things, okay.
but it is correct that, people at the rush hour time, they will use that road to get off of State Road, to bypass the traffic and the lights. And I've told my people that, I used to sit on Tewksbury, and I used to, when Steve lived there, you know, he pointed out to me, and I started sitting there, and about 5 o'clock, it starts, people run that stop sign right there on Warwick, that's considered Warwick there, but I would get a bunch of people, and we've had a few stops done, guys have sat there since I put this out, and I've gotten people. So,
How many are residents?
I didn't look at it that far, but I know that we've gotten some. So, that, we're going to get, well, whatever we're gonna get, we put measures into place, we're gonna stop residents, especially off the peak hours. That'll be more residents than people coming home from work. That will more than likely be people not from the borough.
And the bottom line is, if you are gonna do that, you'll probably stop 3 people in an hour and a half, because it takes you an hour and a half to write 3 tickets. So
But you're in the area.
Presence.
Sure, no,
It's the presence, I think, is
Of
what
course,
it is.
but if you put some lines down on the street, which could cost $1,500 to do that, if we already know everything else is superfluous, it just costs a lot of money, then let's do what we can do that costs the least amount of money, and you sit there a few times, go that way.
Isn't there a PennDOT sign that says speed strictly enforced? Is there an approved PennDOT sign?
There's a VASCAR sign. I know we have 2 in Robbie that say speed enforced by VASCAR, and they're like at both entry points.
So
Just
can
throwing
we,
it out.
so can we then, for tonight's discussion, I think it's important that you point out what you have. I don't think that should be the main focus.
No,
I think you should say that we've done the traffic study, we've done this is what it's showing. All of that being said, here are some things that we think we can do immediately or within the next few months in order to alleviate some of I don't wanna say the perception, but saying those that aren't following this, to try to eliminate that 15% that are speeding. Here are the things we can do, and I think we need to list them. I think we need to say, these are the things we're gonna do, and maybe one of them is gonna be, you're gonna try to have a car over there, you're gonna be monitoring it on a more regular basis, you're gonna have a car over there assigned to that area, we're gonna paint some signs, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do, but I think we need to have that, I think we need to know what those things are, and we need to explain them, and, you know, and then if they bring up, well, we want more stop signs, well, we've looked into that, but we can't, based on PennDOT and Judy Schwank's letter, we can't do it. Unfortunately, we'd like to, but we can't. You know, so I just think we have to have that prepared. Otherwise, I think Ron has a point that it's just gonna become an adversarial situation with a lot of people in a room that aren't really interested in why we're not, they're interested in what we are gonna do.
I have spoken to some of the acquaintances up there, and, over the weekend, and asked them what they're expecting to come out of this meeting. And they said, well, they wanna know what, have answers. I said, that ain't gonna happen.
You're gonna
I
have
said,
some.
I said, you know, we wanna continue to have a dialogue, we wanna hear your suggestions, what you would like to see, and we're gonna tell you what we can do now and going forward.
Listen, at the end of the day, if we're gonna do something like speed humps, we're gonna have speed humps all over this damn borough.
Exactly.
Yeah,
They're
because
gonna
I'm gonna
be
vote for
all
the ones in the
over
boulevard.
the place.
Yeah. The,
We're gonna get 400 signatures,
you know,
put them on.
Right.
if you take what, the one lady said that, you know, that I guess a comment at some point it was made that we can't put speed bumps in because it'll ruin the snow plows, and she was highly offended by that, and I can understand her point, you know, to a degree. But, you know, this is the passion, you know, this is where they are right now with this whole thing.
I think you might wanna also encourage them to attend whatever future infrastructure meeting we discussed. I mean, the whole point of the State Hill Road project is to widen it and alleviate the backups, meaning long-term, if PennDOT's engineers got it right, nobody's gonna be using Lawndale as a cut-through, cause traffic will keep flowing on State Hill Road.
Right.
And if it doesn't, then PennDOT needs to be held accountable for that, cause they're supposed to be fixing that problem.
This in concert with what's coming in the next couple of years.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, it's gonna get worse.
Yeah.
So John, I got a question for you, and I'm not on the committee, so I apologize, but when I lived over there, there was always, not always, but a lot of, I'd see police officer over there at, near the school, at school arrival time. Is it possible, if they're still doing that once in a while, can we put someone sitting on Dale View there, and that one little half road, and instead of sitting at the school, maybe sit down there
We
once
have
in
them-
a great while?
We try to be at the school at the beginning and end of the day. Beginning of the day is easier. End of the
sure.
day tends to be the busier
Easier,
times of our
sure.
day, so we
I
can't
get it.
necessarily get there. But with that school in particular, we've gotten a lot of complaints from the crossing guards of cars coming down that hill disregarding the crossing guards, coming too fast through the 15. So that's why we try to have them right there on Woodland in front. They have the lights going to slow people down. So
It's fair. I mean, that's probably more important, that's where more kids are,
Yeah,
right?
that's-
I understand.
You know, just to throw some fuel, you know, on the fire. I do monitor their website on Facebook, and I guess on Friday, a BARTA bus blew through the stop sign and almost T-boned a car. The owner of the car, who's a resident of the Hills, called BARTA, gave him the bus number, and, you know, once this person strung up, and BARTA said they will look into it and find out who the driver is, but of course, that just brought everything back out again, you know, so,
I think that kind of goes to what I say about all the accidents that we've had, has been stop signs there, people just disregarded it or left it too soon, that type of thing, and it sounds like that's what happened, you know, the BART bus, you know, just didn't stop completely or pulled out too soon or what, but.
If you're heading
So
down,
more signs may not be the issue.
if you're heading down Woodland, toward the school, is there, and I haven't recognized this lately, is there one of those,
Yeah.
lights on both sides?
School
in the
zone.
morning-
For the school zone
in the
signs?
mornings,
Yes.
in both ways?
Yes.
And people are still blowing that off?
So, I mean, sometimes, we've
I've
gotten
never
some
seen
people.
anybody, I've never been behind anybody that when you see those lights at 5 miles an hour, I've never seen anybody fly right through that.
It's, one of the, I will not, you can't say that every roadway in America, somebody's violating the speed at some point, and the school zones. But one of the things with that school zone, it gets very congested in there with the cars, because a lot of parents drop kids off. It's not just the buses, kids coming and they're walking, there's a lot of parents dropping cars off. So it gets kind of congested there on Woodland Road. And parents are parking on Woodland, to walk their kids up to the front door, so it gets narrower than with cars going up. So during the school times, cars, it's difficult for them to do more than 15
Right.
miles per hour. through
Right.
there. But it happens from time to time, it does. But that's why, but we're trying to keep a guy or one of our female officers there just to have a presence to really slow them down. But again, it becomes when they're available to do it.
Did you say we can't put up the red flashing lights around the stop signs?
Anything that has a flashing light is considered a traffic signal by PennDOT and therefore needs a traffic signal permit.
So,
It can be achieved, but it needs to be with a application and approval by them.
so the school's soon gonna have a police car. Maybe they'll be able to sit there with their flashing lights on and you can go along
It's,
Lawndale once in a while.
it is possible, but the problem, his name is Matt Brindley, Officer Brindley with the school. He, afternoons, he's usually done by the time the Hills is getting out of school. He starts
Yeah,
by
nice.
7, so he could be there for their drop off. But with them being done at 3:15, and only kids get out, I guess his schedule's only 7 to 3 most of the time. So he's not over there for drop off. Now, he's been going over more regularly. I know he was there the other day for a good portion of the day, at the Hills, so I guess he's trying to hit more of the buildings now. But he's not somebody that we could say could be there at the end of the day on a regular basis.
So you're not writing tickets for people that are coming into the area. It's just congestion, and you have to move on for dropping off or picking up. 'Cause and we don't.
No, I mean, it's not illegal what they're doing, I'm just saying that because of the congestion of the cars, it's difficult during the pickup and drop off for cars to go more than the 15 miles per hour.
But I mean, I'm thinking, if we have one of our officers there for this purpose, that's a total waste of time. I mean, you're there for reasons that have to do with guns.
Well,
Who's
I mean, that's a
parking.
big part of it. I mean, it's a lot of everything. I mean, people are concerned about their kids and with what's going on with what happened at Wilson the other day on Friday.
Yeah.
Though it was a hoax, people concerned about the kids and
Well,
the
you do
school.
have a
So
guy
we're
in
trying
there
to
though,
be.
that you're just not driving a car. You have a school resource officer in there, right?
No,
In the Hills?
Yeah.
he's there
No?
rarely, he's there rarely.
What's the district?
Well,
There's
maybe
one
you
officer
need another
for
one
this.
in there if you need one.
Well, that's
That's
the.
not our-
the
That's
school.
not our call.
Well, whose call is that?
School district.
Well,
He's not our officer, he's their.
Oh, they're right over
Wilson
here.
only has one.
What's that?
No, they have more.
They
They
have
have two, I think they might be getting 3 actually, I think 3 other officers are in there. But the thing with Wilson is those officers at that high school are all Spring Township officers, they are not officers of the district. Or Pat Brindley is an officer of the district, not of our police department.
You know, we explored, well, you know, Brickstone or whoever down there on the hill, you know, they wanted to put in, you know, hit the button, you know, the light flashes and people could cross the street, you know, from the parking lot. And that was, we were told we can't. You know, I wanted to see a crossing sign put up at, Do-si-Do to cross Forest Avenue. And PennDOT shot that down.
It's a little different though, talking about students, I think, than you are talking about me as an adult running across to get my iced coffee.
I'm all, you know. You know, but, you know, we can certainly pursue everything again, you know, and the main thing tonight, let's just get some, keep the dialogue going and, see what suggestions they have. And like what was said, what can we do immediately?
So I think that's the key.
And
What
then
are we
move
gonna
forward.
do, what are we gonna do now, and what are we gonna look into for the future?
So if you can find out when Jim is getting paid, then I think that would be helpful.
Okay?
Let's move on.
Yeah, so
We're gonna beat this to death tonight.
we're all on the same,
Well, but I'm saying,
Same way.
before you go into tonight, I think we
we need to
be
make
prepared
sure
for
that we're,
Well, I
It's just
think it would
listening.
make sense for somebody to take point on
This
this
was
and say, these are the 5 or 6 things we think we should do, and not get everybody, like he said, we're gonna be there till 11 o'clock tonight.
no, we're not, trust me.
All right, I'll give you $5 on that, we're gonna be here a long time.
I want that in minutes.
I I think if you go
Mr. JD,
into
keep
it-
that on your tape.
I think if you go into it with not an adversarial position,
Right.
and you go into it with some immediate suggestions of what can be done now, and a list of some things that we're going to look into for the future, like we're gonna work with PennDOT to see if there's some other solutions that we may require some other permits and that sort of thing. I think if you go into it with that, I don't think you're gonna be here to
All right, I'm
Can we
in
put the
favor of you
reflective tape on the
telling
stop
them
sign?
I'm fine with that, but I need the list of what we're gonna do.
No, I agree, somebody has to tell them what you just said.
But
Okay.
to me, it would be, we get the fast car lines down, maybe paint the speed limit on the roadways. And then,
Start with
I
that.
think we should maybe look at the flashing lights, but that would be something that can't be done overnight.
Let's make a
The
list.
stop signs.
The two things, if you do something immediately, it'll pass by.
Yep.
I think we wanna solve the
So we don't wanna pass it,
Yeah,
we
I'm
wanna
not-
do something if it's possible,
Yeah.
but the reality of it is we can't put a speed bump on every street that the borough's gonna be absolutely, whether they're speeding on. I guarantee we'll have speed bumps on different roads if we put one
And
there.
we can't.
That's true, because we're gonna stop that.
Ron wants one.
I like his idea, I think we should put
Gated community.
Not doing
put a
it.
fence around the whole borough.
As soon as we lose
Well,
the
we used to have
dog,
the dome.
we already have the dome.
Yeah, but somebody lost the key to the dome.
Or we get like, the troop pickers, an easy pass, they can charge a dime if you're not.
Okay, let's move on. You have anything else?
That would help. our
If you're a resident,
In the county.
you're good, if you're not, you have to
I
pay a
already
dime.
tell them it's gated.
Anybody else have anything for John, other than the Hills issue? Okay, let's move on. West Side Emergency Management.
Okay,
Thomas.
we had a computer server meltdown this morning, so I don't have all my other notes, but I do have, luckily I had already sent this out. And I would just like to take a few minutes to review what some questions are about what's happening with the railroad, which I'm sure is the white elephant in the room there for sure. So we have, not just me, we had set up a plan for resources along the railroad, and that's what we are as an emergency management agency. We are a resource, we're not the firefighter like Colin, or anyone else who's, I'll just say, holding the hose, trying to put the fire out. That's not my job or our job. Our job is to make sure everybody has some resources that we can call on if something, God forbid, goes really wrong. So I'm gonna just show you some things that I have in here for why I'm missing. It does cover everything from Sinking Spring down through West Reading, which is about a 4-mile stretch of Norfolk Southern Railroad. Each fire chief and each police chief have a copy of this. I did add some other things here for this year that are not in the one that they are currently holding, just because of what's happened recently. So we'll just go through a couple of pages here to give you some idea about what kind of things we have. Of course, yeah, I do have threw in a couple of pictures of East Palestine and one that happened in Lynchburg, Virginia a few years ago, both of which obviously have made huge headlines and have caused major concern. Okay. So we have here is, the one on the left is Palestine, the other one is at Lynchburg. Go ahead. I'm not holding anybody up here. The one on the right is our little derailment a couple years ago, 3 years ago, with the trash train, and you don't know how lucky we were. It smelled, but wow, we were lucky as it turned out. The number of cars that went off and made that mess, that could have been some bad stuff, and we'd have had a problem similar to what you're seeing on the news these days. So in here it includes things like contact information for the railroad people. I put in here maps that we can hand out to people who are coming here in mutual aid, so they can see where the accesses are along the railroad. Staging and command areas that are suggestions about where we can set some things up out in the field. fire hydrant locations and how much water flows out of them along the railroad. Storm drain locations and where they dump their water. Most of it along our area is going down into West Reading and out the creek, down out of the creek at the museum down there. That's where a lot of this goes. So we will have a big issue there. And at the end here, some checklists that we can give to people to work with on the scene about what they should be looking at for things to try to take care of. Go ahead. No, we don't need that. I just have a list at the bottom of the people who help actually put this thing together. Did a nice job. Several people helped round up the stuff that I'm gonna show you here. Okay. Just a quick example here of some of the people that we have contact with, and I'm sure it started with Scott Gould here. He's been our main contact along here, and I talked to him a lot during the trash spill. Good guy, easy to work with. And now we actually have another person, Chris Hunsinger, has gladly spoken to us and said he would be glad to help too. There's also another Norfolk Southern guy. People forget about, although it's not in Wyomissing, we have that little, I call it the Tudorville line that runs from Sinking Spring down into Ephrata, down the old Fritztown Road down that way. But they carry some nasty stuff along there too, so I have some information about them. Next, please. Other resources, some things about the schools, BARDA, water supplies, what else is on there? Anything like portable bathrooms, agencies to contact. The Red Cross is on there because if people have to leave their house, we are now in the position where the Red Cross they have kind of taken charge of evacuation. We used to do that and had a big long list. Red Cross has since said we'll do it, and they do it. So it could be anything from the schools, the churches, wherever they have a place that they can put people.
They have something 24/7.
Yes, absolutely.
What about shelters?
Well, they have that. They're in charge of that. Shelters, I'll show you a map here at the end. When we get to that, you can certainly take another look at that one. Okay. Next. Things about getting food supplies, fuel delivery for apparatus that might be here for hours and hours and hours. Some rental agencies to be able to get some equipment, some earth moving, although I think Norfolk Southern voted in most of their own stuff. When they had the trash thing, I don't think we had to worry too much about that. Phone resources, and Colin can speak a little bit to that. We have enough phone resources if we have, say, like a tanker or something up on the bypass, but phone resources for something like happened out in Ohio, no. We can't do it, and it's at least several hours before they can even get that stuff to our location.
Don't they make that down by Philly?
There's one that, go back to that list there, I don't remember who.
Remember when they escorted up for the mobile?
Yeah, they have, well, I have National Phone is on there. I don't know, Colin, what do we have? They will.
Yeah, that
post
would be
stuff
the
on-
issue, but that's contentious right now too because of the PFAS is in the foam. So it's not illegal to use that, however, when you use these Class B foams, which we have 660 gallons of it on a foam trailer that was provided by Sunoco, you have to worry about the runoff and where it's gonna go because that causes cancer and it gets into wells and stuff like that. So it's not saying that we can't use it, but there's gonna be ramifications after the fact.
Can I ask a question? If you have an event along the lines that we're talking here, there's a lot of communities, pretty well-armed communities when it comes to this type of stuff. When you have one, is the police or fire folks in that community, the incident command? And where is the command post for that thing going to be set up?
Well,
Like, if
that-
it's a Y missing, is it you and then our fire department?
Well, I'm not in command, that would be probably
Well,
Collins.
it's gonna need to be a unified command, which we saw on Friday, it didn't happen at the police shooting, or the, you
Right,
know,
but I'm
the
just,
Hope
I'm just
shooting.
asking,
So,
who's the
there's gotta
first
be-
guy on the
There's,
scene?
the first person on scene is ultimately gotta be command, but you're gonna need players from everybody. And this is where it's imperative that borough elected officials, township elected officials have all their ICS trainings and stuff like that, because there's gonna need to be representation there as well too, because initially, if we're, you know, there's no set, this is what we're gonna do for a train agreement. If something happens, we're gonna need to assess the situation, so we're gonna have to find out what's going on. Is something burning, is something leaking? What is that? Then our next step's gonna be evacuation and figure out what we can do to stop the leak potentially, or put the fire out, or let the fire burn. But there's gonna need people there with the checkbooks to be able to sign stuff, because if we say we're gonna need 8,000 gallons of foam or whatever, they're not just gonna deliver the 8,000 gallons of foam because I say, hey, we need 8,000 gallons of foam. Somebody's gonna have to sign a form that says that we're gonna pay for this or whatever. I mean, that's gonna all be worked out in the end. Obviously, it's gonna, you know, Norfolk Southern, whoever caused the incident is gonna have to pay for it, but up front, there's gonna need to be elected officials involved as well too. So you're gonna have county officials, EMA, fire officials, EMS officials, police officials, and they all need to be working together at some place, and that's probably gonna be in a building someplace that they can actually set up with maps, computers, radios, and whatever.
But are those not established now?
Yeah.
There's always
Yeah, it's established now.
Where's the evacuation or the?
Well, let's go
command
back here.
post for
One thing
wireless?
is that Emergency Operations Center is at Spring Township's fire station.
But if the train derails up there, we're probably going to be
Right, then we
depending on.
gotta go
being in
to a secondary location, which could be in this room right here, it could be in West Reading's Borough Hall. The borough halls are the secondary locations, and the phone systems and things are set up to handle our phone system, which is obviously more than one. It's an internet really, functioning thing. And the people in there should be, yeah, the unified command thing, and if you've been taking your classes and paying attention, that's the big deal here, is that we need somebody from each of these people that are involved with doing something, whether it's the police, the fire, ambulance, so that they're in there and they will hear communication from each other, and they can pass that along, and in that emergency operations center, they can then deal with somebody saying, we need this, we don't need that, what about calling this guy? That's where that all takes place.
Realistically, we would probably need to be self-sufficient for a good 5 to 8 hours, but then after that, the alphabet soup's gonna be here, and we're probably gonna be pushed out of the way, because those people are the ones that are gonna, DEP, EPA, all those kind of officials are gonna be here that are going to really dictate the cleanup and what, you know, yes, let it burn, no, don't let it burn, no, you know, do this, do that.
They've been pretty good about, more recently, they've been pretty good about, you know, it's a local thing, so they're not gonna, you know, they will still talk to us, I'll say. But, they got the resources and the people with the knowledge about some of these things that are going on that are of a much bigger consequence than we're normally dealing with here.
When we had the mobile, maybe some of you know, there's a gasoline oil tanker leak, pretty major back in '75. And you could actually see the fumes going across Warren Street bypass. That's, I think it was at 61. And we were there, and I remember just saying, what the hell are we doing? But at one point, they decided to call National Phone down outside Philadelphia. And I guess in 2 hours, we had over 8,000 gallons of phone, and they had a state police escort coming right up through with it, which was pretty impressive. And then once that got here, then things started to calm down a little bit. But we've also had an incident, you know, Tom talked about, we were lucky on the trash. We were lucky also in the 70s, 73, where we had carloads of coal dump over on Clayton Avenue and paint. And, God, if those would have been tankers, with, you know, with the nurses' apartments right there and stuff.
Well, that's the biggest issue, is the demographics all along the rail lines around here. And the biggest issue and the hardest hurdle is going to be the evacuation and getting transportation to get those people someplace.
Okay, next. A couple of samples of what I'm talking about here. Now, this covers everything from Singing Spring down through West Reading, but I just pulled out a couple for why I'm missing, so that you can be a little more familiar with them. This is access along the railroad via public streets, and what, this could be handed out to people who are mutual aid people coming to the scene and would say, where in the God's name is the 1400 block of Penn Avenue, and what am I looking at? So, go to the next one. So what I have is locations marked on these maps of where this is, and then the next one, please. A photograph of, if they pull into this area, they can say, oh, okay, now I can see where I'm going. But you can see how close we are to the tracks here. Okay, next one. This is just for Van Reed. This is over there and back of, not Van Reed, Reed Avenue off of Spring Street over there where those doctor's offices are. Next one. And people would say, Reed, where in the world? So, picture of the entranceway to get back in there. Next. Staging and command, and of course these could vary greatly, but I picked out areas, and it's no longer Willoughby's, I guess, is it?
It is.
Yeah, it is.
It still is Willoughby's, okay. I thought that name changed, I thought, oh geez, I forgot to fix that. All right, so that's good. Anyway, so this
Are
is.
those locations aware that on any given day, they could be out of business for a year or so? You
There's a
tell
train
them-
wreck, they
You
don't
tell
care.
them that they're staging
They
area.
got-
Oh, you
they got
mean
bigger
first.
ones.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think if there's, yeah, they're gonna have
You
that
want
knowledge.
to your command
There's a train wreck, they're gonna
staging
figure it
around.
out. You got chances for a day.
Okay, next, I'll show
Have a
you.
heck of a communication center.
So this one is just, I've marked off the mall here, or what's left of the mall. There's plenty of place to park now.
You can park inside.
Yeah, parking. Fire hydrants, same kind of thing I picked out, and I'll show you. Go ahead, go on with fire hydrants, next one. This is like, again, along Penn Avenue, 1600 to 1200 block. Green marks are hydrants, and although the numbers on this screen are very clear, it does show gallons per minute that these hydrants flow and where they're located. Next. Storm drains, yikes. This is, of course, a big issue, and I don't know, God only knows what'll happen here. We can only hope, although we know where it's gonna go.
Does it come out that big pipe that was ready to pool?
Yes, some of it. Next.
I should have did it.
Okay, I'm over here in Berkshire Heights now, where we come out at North Wyomissing Boulevard, and we get on the bypass there. Those two drains are next to the railroad. They flow directly into the river. Not very far, as you can see. These are the ones along Penn Avenue, 1700 block down to 1000 block, all along Penn Avenue. The blue arrow indicates which way the water is flowing. This one down here on the bottom left is up near Lowers Lane. That water runs out into and somehow makes its way into that little streamlet thing that is along Dolphin Avenue there at the end. And then we go down, yeah, it comes eventually into Whiskey Ditch, it does. Next.
Boy, I haven't heard that in a while.
And then this is the list of just some checklist things that we have. Go ahead, next one, I'll show you what they are here. We have checklists that's for whoever is in the command post, or things that they're working on, or it could be something that I'm looking at and saying, hey, we need to look at these kinds of things. It's a good idea, because nobody could possibly remember all this stuff all the time, you couldn't possibly. Okay, next. there's a whole bunch of them here. Operations people would get things, they can say, you know, things about what they're doing. Operations is probably more what Colin would be doing, that kind of thing. But you can keep going here. And of course, at the bottom here, finance is a big deal out of this. I know, we hope we get reimbursed or whatever. We have a little bit of a pot of money with the emergency management agency, but probably not enough to cover the cost of something this big.
But initially, it would be us have to approve an expenditure to get it going, to get it here, and then we try to get that money back.
Next. This one is just a hazardous material transportation checklist, a little bit different than the railroad one, but also has some good stuff on it. Next, keep going. Go ahead. Next. Next. You know all those. This was a list that the guy at the Lynchburg, Virginia fire, one the battalion chief put together that I thought seemed very good for looking at if something was going on over there. He has anything from, you know, like things that could be going bad, and he has them in an order that he thought would be appropriate for responding to this kind of a situation. Next. Spring Township and Wyomissing, although Wyomissing's name isn't on there, follow this checklist of emergency information that you would want to look at and have some information about that's on there about just trains in general. You know, number of cars, locomotives, direction of travel. Do they have some of these trains today now are up to almost 3 miles long?
Do our law enforcement officers carry the MSDS books in each of their
I don't know if they have an MSDS book, but
There's some old ones out there, but it's all online now.
Good.
Everything's used to be there.
it's online, and it also you can get it from it's carried in the cab of the engine.
Yeah.
That's assuming that you can get to them. Yeah.
That guy knows what's in
Yeah.
there, but it's 100 cars back.
Or if you can get a hold of his dispatcher,
Yeah,
they have it too.
they have it. Yeah, the contacts there would get you that. Okay, go ahead. Some other things just about some of the equipment in general. Okay, go ahead. And most of the engines, although they aren't red like this that you see, they're mostly black and white with the Norfolk Southern. But that's what you're looking at for the engine there. Next. I just threw in, there's another one of the trash wreck down here. And we do get, I just threw these other ones in because we do get some communication from Norfolk Southern, and they've been very good with us. I don't have any complaints about them. I know that there's a lot of trouble going on with them out there, just Ohio thing, but I don't know. There's nothing like that we had any trouble with.
Never know how much that's true either, with the news media.
Well, I know.
Sounds more like a political.
Yeah, they've been very good. The Scott Gould and now Chris Hunsinger have been very, conversations have been fine. I call them once in a while. I was gonna call them about what happened out there, and then I figured they'll probably be either so busy or their lips are sealed, I'm sure, by this time, so.
Call Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah.
So,
Mayor, you call Mayor Pete.
on the trash incident, was that the track or the carriage that failed?
No, I think they blamed it on the switch. This switching stuff down here behind the family restaurant, they have, and Scott told me too, it's like, if it isn't the busiest switch in their system, it's one of the top switches in their whole Norfolk Southern system. That's how much it's used, and how much maintenance it needs to be kept working right. So I don't, depends what you see, but you could see them down there, they're down there a lot, checking it, fixing it, or whatever, maintaining it.
And isn't there some formula already that you know when hazardous materials are traveling on those tracks?
There's not a formula, but there's a, you don't know which ones are coming through on any given train, but,
Just to keep that quiet, because it's terrorists.
well, there was some, there's unit
Well, for
trains, the
you
ones that,
guys to know.
well, we can find out, we have a,
Indication that we.
they gave, they have accessible now, like commodity lists that are on the trains that come through, how many cars of each kind of thing. But it's just a general overall list. There are, I don't know if there still are or not, there's usually, could be anywhere between 40 trains a day through out here. It's a lot. It's their main line, east-west. It really is, it's a big deal. And here they split, you either go to Allentown or down to Philly. So it's a big deal out here for them, I can tell you that.
And they don't follow the policies, some of these, that you're only allowed 10 connected cars, okay, of hazardous material, let's say, for an example. No, they'll have 20, 25 connected to it. You know, so.
The unit trains with the oil and or the ethanol could be 100 cars.
Do you remember the derailment, I wanna say it was early 2000s, that was behind the Borough Garage area up in there? That was some tanker cars, I remember. Do you remember what that was?
No, it wasn't, like, I can't tell you right offhand without going back through, say, some fire department records, and I don't even know if we got dispatched for that, to be honest with you. There's been a number of,
I don't think we got dispatched.
there's been a number of derailments, you know, in this area right here.
I'm pretty sure you were, because I mean, I was working and
You
you were
were.
there, and I'm pretty sure the fire guys were there too. We accessed it up there off of Northwest.
Yeah, I do remember it, but I don't remember what
I thought
exactly.
that had some tanker cars involved in it.
Luckily, they didn't spill though, I don't think they spilled. Now this I put up here for effect. I looked at the vinyl chloride, which is the biggest nuisance out of that fire out there in Ohio. And I put that dot in the middle, like somewhere around Dozy Doe, right around there. And drew up vinyl chloride requires, if there's a tank car burning with that on, a 1 mile radius for evacuation. So I just want people to look at it and see what it includes there.
That includes Reading Hospital.
Yeah, it's down as far as the hospital, the schools. It goes over as far as Best Buy. And I don't know, does that slide up any further there? I just wanted to see, I guess it doesn't. What it might. Oh, well, yeah, pretty close. We can see there, we're over the museum, and you're over in the birdland there, along the creek and stuff. It's extensive. Yeah, and then you have to take into consideration, you have to take into consideration of plume, because the winds are mostly from west to east. That's all gonna blow into the city and all over West Reading. It's a nightmare.
We're safe, Steve.
It's
So they
a
moved it
nightmare.
down a little further down the railroad track.
I know. So I hope that just gives you at least a better feeling or understanding about what it might involve, and maybe what those people are going through out there in Ohio. I mean,
St. Joseph's not very happy about that.
It's not good.
no, it's not. It's not good at all, but that's
What was the white tank car with the red V?
some kind of sign.
Well, that's right, you're gonna get.
They still have.
I don't know. They
Yeah,
hold-
we used to have cyanide come through here. They're white cars with red bands on them.
The things that come through here, I mean, oil trains and the ethanol is bad enough, but this stuff like what's going on out in Ohio, the same stuff comes through here every day. Stay on the tracks. But it wasn't the track that was bad in here, but it was the wheel on the train, so, I don't know.
Axles are heated.
It's a shame.
Nice presentation.
Yep.
Okay,
Thanks, Tom. Anybody have any more questions for Tom?
if you do, you know where to find me.
Until something happens.
Yeah, then don't look for me.
Where's Tom?
Yeah. Well, there must be something.
Okay.
Tom, did the ICS compliant get to be in one of those meetings, right?
If what, if you,
The ICS compliant you're talking about, that's, what is that again? That's. is that
incident
key
command system?
We went to that training the other week.
Oh, you went out there to find out what elected officials were supposed to
That's
be
not
aware
it.
of. No, that's not the actual training for that, but it should give you a good idea about what's. And we had as many people out there as anybody did. Some didn't have any that went. You gotta be at least aware of this stuff. Be in the dead, but.
Okay. We have any old business to discuss? Hearing none. Any new business? Hearing none. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. So be it.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, one and all.
See you tonight.